Hi guys, Falterov, Shane DePora and Shaw. So we're going to have a look at Irish Paper 1 and we're going to give a recap and I'm going to give my opinion on the paper. So to start off with the Cluas Tishkins, obviously the Cluas Tishkin, the tape file or the CD file or whatever you want to call it, hasn't actually been released yet. So the only thing that I've been able to do so far is to look at the questions and speak to my own students, obviously that have come out of the exam. My overall feeling, speaking to students and actually looking at the questions that were put in sections A, B and C, was that it was probably easier than last year. I don't think it could be any more difficult. I think last year's Cluas Tishkin was very, very challenging and students found it very, very difficult. I think, it's always a difficult question for students, but overall I don't think anyone came out with a hugely negative experience of it. There were some difficult questions there. I was told that, the second part of C was a little bit challenging, but overall students felt that it was fair, it was manageable, and that, they were able to make a good attempt at it. Don't worry, I think with the listenings, the Cluas Tishkin students often feel they do worse than they actually did, just because you're unsure of what you're listening to and it's different every single time. But don't worry, I feel that it was a better one than last year, just talking to my own students after leaving the exam. So that's kind of the amount I really can give you on that for now. Moving to the composing section of Ceapadóireacht, which is then the only other question really on paper 1, we're looking at the 5 different essay titles. So A was an Custas Marachtála in Éireann, is the cost of living in Ireland. That was a very fair essay title. I think students who would have prepared that would be very happy to see that question being asked. Obviously there's loads of different ways you can ask topics. So the topic of the cost of living in Ireland, that was probably the easiest way to ask it. There was no kind of little bit added onto about like how it's impacting people or families. It was just cost of living in Ireland discussed. So if you wrote about houses, the cost of houses, the cost of rent, electricity, oil, petrol, anything like bills, food for example going up, if you wrote anything along those lines, your essay is ad rem, as we say, it's on topic, it's going to be marked, and you've done very well there. That was probably the nicest of all the essay questions. Number 2, Feiban and Ruggy Séadhan, you had the problem of drugs today. Again, it's a nice title. I wouldn't be so sure that many students would have had essays prepared in this. The last time it came up word for word like that, there was a question in 2015 on alcohol and drugs. So I don't feel, although it was a very easy title, I don't think a lot of students would have been overly well prepared for it. So I can't see it being a very popular choice. Students are good at writing maybe a paragraph or 2 about drugs, but if you didn't have a full essay on drugs, I don't think students would have attempted it. Dini Kalula, an essay title, famous people in life today. I feel that a title that now has become a little bit more popular in recent years as a trend. If you had an essay prepared on that about famous people within Ireland or around the world, again, it's a nice title, it's easy to understand. If you had your preparation done and you practiced something like that in school, really nice topic to do. Again, it probably wouldn't be a very, very popular title to do during the year, so I'm not too certain how many people would have done that. The next one was D, Agor, on Agor, a sale on Leanu. Again, a lot of things about life today, and Agor is an inequality or an injustice, which I know a lot of students this year wanted an essay to come up on the housing crisis, and I feel that was probably your best opportunity. You could have fit some of your essay in, obviously in A, the cost of living, but an injustice and unfairness and inequality in life today would be housing, the way that so many people in Ireland can't afford to buy for whatever reason, or there's a lack of supply there. So that is the one that a lot of students would have wanted to come up. Whether you would have understood the word agor, they've asked it before as a fibe, a problem, and they've asked it as a ger came, as a crisis, but they've never used the word agor before, so that may have thrown people off the scent. So I think a lot of students would have liked to answer that question, but maybe didn't because they weren't sure what the meaning of the word was. Last one for the essay was E, na rudí a churann isteach ar chláinte an duine. The things, plural, rudí is more than one thing, so the things that bother or annoy the health of a person. Similar to like life of a teenager essay, maybe if you've prepped that before, the negatives to do with that. A couple of things I jotted down was maybe if you wrote about pressure, if you wrote about unemployment, if you wrote about poverty, exams, money, alcohol, drugs. So your typical topics that you would be preparing anyway for talking about teenage years, except they said a life of a person instead of a teenager. Same issues apply with alcohol, drugs, unemployment, poverty. It's the same things that would bother a person. So overall, I think that'll be a very popular essay choice this year. I would say a lot of students will have gone for A or for E. That would be my guess of what essays will be most popular for this year's exam. We got into the stories. A, Mishnach, courage, and B, Nilain Tinton, or the Hinton Fain, there's no place like home. 2, probably difficult words, Mishnach I don't think everyone would understand, and relatively simple Shanukal that most people would understand. If you did the story there, it depends on what you've done in advance. It's not a question I tend to teach, so my own students I couldn't get the feedback often really to see if they did it or not. I wouldn't say there would be too many students attempting those. And lastly, the debate or the speech, the first one taught on Chhailge Bio Bahak Sa Ray Digitoch Sho. Irish is alive and kicking, alive and well in this digital era. So it's not just an essay about the Irish language. Obviously you want to say it's alive and well as you would, but it's alive basically in digital. So you'd be talking about TG Car, you'd be talking about how it's being used in social media, you know, anything to do with digital era, how the pop-up Gaeltachts are organised through social media, things like that. You know, it's not just about the Irish language. You know, you could have gone to the Gaeltacht through Zoom over the last couple of years and stuff like that. So anything to do with the Irish language, but that it's online as opposed to just in person. And the last one was the good work that charity organisations do, or organisations do. Again, a question that has never been asked before, so I can't see it being very popular. I feel the theme of this paper was they put a lot of I suppose topics on the paper that students would have prepared and would have looked at, but they asked questions in a new way. So I kind of felt that although students came out, you know, feeling like, you know, they had something they could answer on, they had something they could do, I don't think many came out absolutely thrilled. I'd say maybe underwhelmed was the slight, maybe the emotion I could say that students felt, because they knew that they were writing about the right thing, but it probably wasn't word for word the title that they were looking for. But overall, I think that if you did kind of those essays that I said, if you did like A, if you did D or E from the essay, and you kind of took a hunch that your gut feeling was right about writing about the things you probably would have done in school, I think you'll be happy with your grade, and I think you will have done well. It was just probably a little bit unfortunate that word Agor is a word that many people wouldn't have understood, because I know housing was a very popular choice for students this year. But look, that's done. Move on to paper 2 tomorrow. Have a look over your material tonight, and I wish you the very best of luck, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks. Slán.